welcome to our webinar this morning. And I am very excited. So today with us, we've got Raj Udayakumar, and he is the Senior Vice President of the Contact and Customer Service Center Operations for DBS Digibank. And he's got a wealth of knowledge around chat technology, social media in customer service, machine learning, data science. I mean, the list really goes on, Raj. You're a very accomplished man. And so he's running these operations for DBS Digibank, and really fits right in with the theme we have for these support superhero webinars is people who are out in the field, working with technology, trying to create better customer experiences for real companies who have, in this case with DBS Digibank, a very large business, large and established. So Raj, welcome. First of all, we're really glad to have you on.
Thank you so much, Gregory. And thanks to Netomi for giving this opportunity for me. Thank you so much.
Yes, it's our pleasure. All right, so I'm going to try. Look, everybody, I know we all hate slides, so we're only going to sparingly use these slides. But I did want to put the title slide up because I like the title so much, Raj. I mean, you came up with this. It's like the best service is no service, and I really thought that was very profound. And we'll jump into that. So why don't we do that? So this was, again, I'm going to turn this off really quickly because this is such a nerdy agenda slide. But, you wanted to talk about a few things, starting from the right, going to the left. You wanted to talk about proactive service. You wanted to talk about, as you titled it, the invasion of the bots and your experience with bots. And then also how to rethink our contact center more of as a knowledge center. So those were the things that we were going to talk about today. So this is, I'll just, to allow better, I'll turn this off. There we go, I stopped the share. So the best service is no service. And I think what you've talked about is every inbound customer interaction is a failure, which is actually kind of a dramatic way to put it. But I wonder if you could start us off by explaining that phrase. Every inbound interaction is a failure.
So typically in the contact center industry, people focus a lot on complaints and issues, and a big chunk of the calls, if you look at it, are predominantly inquiries. When I say inquiry, people asking simple information, basic information, and they say, oh, these are inquiries, and there's not a lot of focus on that. There's a lot of focus on reducing complaints, reducing the issues. But in my view, every call is a failure. And when I say that, the reality is I don't think anybody wants to pick up the phone, go through the long IVRs and speak to us. They're all busy in their lives, right? Or a chat for that matter.
Yeah.
If we are making some customer go through that experience of picking up the phone and calling us or reaching out through our channels, he's really not going to enjoy it. And in my view, every call we should treat it as a failure.
Yeah, it's a mindset rather than, well, this is just the cost of doing business. This is like, no, we failed somewhere. And Raj, let me tell you why I like that, because it puts you in that mindset of like, hey, we can actually solve this. We can relentlessly learn and find each and every breakdown. And I think you had a few categories of breakdown. They're actually written on the slide that you made, but since we're not using the slides as much. But there were a bunch of categories for quote unquote failure. And I wonder if you could, talk to some of those.
Sure. So the way, in not only Digibank, even in my previous work experiences, the way we have done that is every call, like you said, when we say it's a failure, which means the product is probably not simple or intuitive enough for the customer. He's stuck somewhere and he's calling you for some help. Let it be a simple inquiry. The journey is broken somewhere, right? Which is, again, probably it's a problem, but a lot of people don't focus too much on the journey breaks. Our instruction is not clear enough. When I say not clear enough, we've got to realize every customer is different. One size doesn't fit all. We really have to make sure that the information that we give is tailor-made to that customer and he's able to understand that clearly, right? Another area I predominantly think a lot of companies don't do very well is error messages. When I say error messages, in today's digital world, we have a lot of errors, which is part of our process. We build for happy journeys, but there are unfortunately breaks, but we don't give a lot of focus on the error journeys.
Yeah.
And that is something that I think, people should look at. And that is something, clearly an opportunity for us to improve. Last but not the least, definitely the understanding of that customer is poor. We do not understand this customer. We do not understand what works for him, which is why he's forced to pick up the phone and
Yes.
call us or chat with us.
Well, let's go through, this is such an interesting area for me personally. I spent 15 years as a product manager or in product management. And, that circuit of feedback from customer service to product management doesn't always happen. And so that first one really rings true for me is the product is not intuitive. And as a product manager, we would do a lot of like user testing up front. But I will admit, along the way, I was in companies where we didn't also take error signals, messages from our customer service friends about what's intuitive and what's not, and do that analysis. And I know some people do that. Some companies do that. It's not like nobody's doing it, but it's not a norm, and it was a miss, I think. So that really applies to your first two, whether the product is intuitive or we understood the product journey. And product management and customer service they should be literally sitting in the same room. I mean, maybe not literally, but really joined at the hip. And I think that applies to all those. Like, I can say, just as a normal human being in this technology era that we all live in, the error messages that don't give alternate options are one of the most frustrating. I love that you pointed that out, because it's like, okay, it's broken, but what do? You just put me at a dead end, and here I am, and I have no options. And now I have to call, which is expensive for me and expensive for, people on your side of the
Right.
table.
Okay.
Yeah. So as a product manager, I'm saying yes, a resounding yes. I totally resonate with these things. Anything else that you would add around this notion of failure?
I think you pointed that interestingly when we started. This is a mindset. Often when I go into a team and we talk about, okay, 20% of these calls are coming in. Oh, that's an inquiry. They just don't consider that as a failure. And because you don't look at that as a failure, you don't put efforts to improve. Why would someone call? Mm-hmm. And the second, like you said, you start looking at every call as a failure, I think the whole dynamic changes, and the way people approach to solving that changes. And I've seen that in all my work experiences across telecom, hospitality, banking, and all of that. It's a mindset. And I think that is what people should realize. People in contact center, especially, they should realize everybody calling you, they don't like it, right? And we talk about how difficult is it to migrate them to digital channels. Actually, it's not difficult. If you understand the customer and you're able to attack him with the right channel, which applies for him, it's very easy to migrate them to alternate digital channels. It's just that we need to figure out the customer well, understand the customer well, and have all the options on the table, of course.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I'll tell you where my mind goes. I know I'm beating a dead horse here and I'm going back to the same thing, but the head of customer service and the head of product management ought to be best friends,
100% with that.
Yeah, because it's just this, we keep using this word mindset, and that has to go up to the leadership level. Because my experience, I've worked with a lot of customer service agents, the people who are on the front lines and on the phone. As a product manager, I've worked with them, and most of them are just trying to survive the day, because there's so many inquiries. And I've been in mostly growing businesses, so we're always outstripped by our capacity. But they were just trying to get by and just survive the tsunami of inquiries. And so it really was up to the management level to say, hey, this is a value of ours, that an interaction is a failure. We're going to root cause it. We're going to diagnose each and every one. We're going to have a repeatable process to do that. And product management is going to be bought into that. And they're going to want to listen, not because we make them listen and complain a lot, but they're going to be hungry for that. Okay. All right. So we switched up the order, so I had to remember what was next. Okay, so with this mindset, now we start to go into, okay, what do we do about it? And
right?
you've also, I like this. You deal with mindsets a lot. I think this is the interesting part of how you think. What you were talking about, and I promised not to use the slides too much, but here I go. You're talking about another mindset shift. This is not a contact center where we just field calls and we give answers and then we all go home at 5 o'clock. It's from a contact center to a knowledge center. And I know we're talking about semantics here, but it's another mindset shift.
Right.
And you had some points, so I'm just going to allow you to really talk to these. But I'll give you the floor. And
Sure,
what did you
sure.
mean by this? What do you mean by knowledge center rather than a contact center?
So I'll connect with the previous point you made. How do you, as the head of contact center, get a seat at the table where decisions are made, right? Work with the product team. That is very difficult. If you look at every organization that I've worked with, they first looked at, okay, contact center, they'll take the calls, and that's about it. And they just look at you as an operational unit doing a job repeatedly, and that's the value. The critical thing is people don't realize, and I'm sure a lot of companies do that. We spend a lot of money doing surveys, sending, going to agencies. Can you do customer meets? Can you do CSATs? Can you get the feedback? You do a lot of effort trying to get that feedback but in reality, every day the customer's calling into the call center and giving you feedback, right? Every call is a feedback. You're not listening to that at all. Sorry. Yeah.
Can I just, I really want to highlight what you just said. It was so important. I'm sorry to interrupt you. It's like, oh, we need to know what our customers are saying. So let's do these additional things. And what you're saying is, hey, they're already telling you a lot. They're already telling you a lot. The data is there, the information is there. And I think where you're about to head is, okay, and here are the places it is, and here's how to access it. But what you said was super important. So I want to frame that as you go forward. Okay, so back to you.
Absolutely. And that's what I tell people, that there's so much that we know about the customer that you don't need to spend effort doing analysis and doing a lot of stuff, because we have the information. So the key, I think, is listening to the customer, right? You've got to listen to the customer. And I say listen, it's not just what the customer told, but the customer tells you something, but behind that there are a series of things the customer wouldn't know, right? It's up to you at the contact center to actually translate that into useful data, right, which the organization can use. That, I think, is very, very critical. And in fact, in every organization that I've worked, and I've worked in different verticals, the first thing I do is try to capture the data in a usable format for the company. And when I say for the company, for the organization, it's important because I think every organization is different, right? So I've worked in telecom, which is all about scale. We had 200 million customers. I worked in hospitality, which is a different kind of a product vertical. It's all about the holiday experience. And then I'm working in a bank now. But every organization has its different needs. And so that comes to the third point. You got to measure what matters. So you're listening to the customer, you're translating that into useful data, but that alone is not enough. You've got to bring it to a measurement which matters to the company. Maybe I'll just allow. Yeah.
I don't know what you're about to say, but I was going to say, can you give us an example from DBS?
Correct.
Okay.
I'll give you an example about DBS. I'll give you an example about the hospitality company as well. In DBS, for example, we launched Digibank, which is an app-only bank. It was supposed to be digital, end-to-end serviced within the app. And one of the key things, and you would read that across DBS, is how do you make scale up in digital while at the same time keeping your cost low, right? Because a digital model, we also give a damn good value proposition, right? The margins, and it's very thin, unlike a traditional banking model. And one of the things we've launched about 5 years back, and one of the approaches that we had was we looked at every call as a failure. We measured it against the total customer. So if you had 100 customers, and if 5 of them called them in that month, we call that, okay, contact rate, 5 by 100, 5%. So we said, okay, 5% is a contact rate. And that was a metric not just owned by me, but it was owned by the product team. It was owned by the business team. It was a joint owned target. So everybody was looking at that one metric, and it was driven from the top also, right? Even the senior management looked at that metric as the key metric. And that is the difference when you have some measurement which matters. So we said, in a digital bank, why would a customer call? The product is supposed to serve. So every call, the philosophy that, kind of fits into the digital bank for sure, the digital product. But that was very powerful for us in DBS. So 5 years down, we've launched, our customers have gone up by 6-7x, our transactions have gone up by about 17 times. Our headcount for managing the call centers remain absolutely flat. In fact, my inbound calls, what I used to receive during my launch, we are actually 20% lower than what it was at that point of time. So
Wow.
It works. And we've kept the economic model for Digibank running because we managed to keep our headcount flat for 5 years, despite everything going by 5 times, 10 times, 15 times also. So that, I think, is what I meant by saying measure what matters. So in that product, that mattered a lot.
Yeah, really. So I want to pause you for a second, Raj. I'll speak to the audience now. Hey, everybody. Number one, please put your questions into the Q&A box if you've got any, and I'm monitoring those. But the second thing is that Raj just said that they have a metric called, I think you called it contact rate. And you explained that it was the 5% that you explained, but it was shared by other parts of the company. And that is rare. So I wish I had a poll on this. I should have set it up beforehand, but I just thought of the question. But so I'm putting this to the audience. Put your answer into the Q&A. How many of you do or do not have a metric that you share with the product team, some kind of contact rate like metric? So if you out in the audience, if you can go to your Q&A and just say yes we do and no we don't. So I see a no, not yet. Thank you, Sandra. Yeah, okay. I see three out of 3 no's. Raj, I love that you brought this point up. This is great. Yeah. I've got a bunch of no's. I see 1 yes, 2 yeses. Yeah. Okay, so I would say about 60% of the answers coming in, probably more like 70. You don't have a metric that the product team shares. And so, yeah, the product team in all companies, they care and they're in the canoe with you, but they don't have a metric that gets monitored by the CEO. So I think for me, that's one of the takeaways. And I want to share that with the audience is, what kind of executive level metric pulls the product team into, wow, we better design this product so that contact rate is coming down. Okay. Love that you brought that up. And I'm sorry to keep interrupting you with this, but I want to highlight these, I want to extract the good stuff here. Okay. So you talked about measure what matters, and I'll hand the microphone back to you.
Sure. And I think maybe not a lot of them would track this metric because maybe it doesn't apply. I'll give you an example from my hospitality experience. I used to manage, a contact center for a vacation ownership product. There was no such metric, and we were a reservation call center. So people would call and they were measuring, okay, you're doing 10,000 bookings. Okay, you're doing 15,000 the next year. That's great growth. But then somewhere we found customers were not happy because one section was very happy, one set of customers not very happy. And then we realized, when we went deeper in, what we realized is there are some customers who knew how to do the reservation. Every product has its nuances, and of course, so they continue to get a lot of bookings while there's another set of customers who never could get bookings. So there was a big disparity. So we went and introduced a new metric called unique member holidays, as in a year, calendar year, how many members holidayed. And when we put the number, it shocked the entire organization. They didn't agree as an org-wide metric, but I'll be honest, it was measured every month from across the management because they realized that, okay, this is where the problem is. And we went back to the product, we tweaked the product, we changed the terms and conditions of the product, we changed the way reservation works. We did a whole lot of effort that in less than 2 years, our rooms went up by about from 100 to 200, but the number of members who holidayed went up from 100 to 300, about 3.5 times, right? That's the power of, like I said, finding a metric which matters to your organization. It might not be contact rate for some, it could be something different, but the fact is you got to find out that one metric which your CEO is going to be interested, your sales team is going to be interested, your product team is going to be interested. And that I think is very, very critical.
Okay. So what I'm distilling from this is, hey, if you're a head of customer service, don't just take the status quo about what you measure and think you should measure. Actually really sit down and think, does this reflect actual success? Or might it be pretty good, but a little misleading, and really do the thought leadership on that. What reflects the actual health, status that we're trying to track, and is it relevant for our business, not necessarily somebody else's business? So I think you're encouraging everybody on this call to go back and think, how are we measuring it? Does it really make sense? And to put some scrutiny in it, not just accept the status quo.
Right.
Okay.
Absolutely.
That's great.
This has happened in pretty much in every organization. What happens in typical contact center industry and service industry is we measure CSAT, we measure service level, we measure handle time. But do these metrics impact a sales head or a product head? Will they care about it? They're not going to care about it. And if you continue to talk about that as your primary deliverable metric, you're going to be taken as an operation team. And like I said, it's a mindset. You have to talk about what matters to the organization, and automatically everybody comes onto the table. And like I said, that in almost every organization, we've realized these metrics, the standard metrics actually don't impact, or they are looked at for sure, but probably not the most important ones for the organization as a whole.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So I want to keep us on track, Raj. You talked to me a lot about the explosion of service channels, and I'm just going to pop this slide up and just show, and then I'll turn it off and we can talk. But this is what you talked to me, and you said, wow, there is really a proliferation of ways that people are both expressing and learning. So it was, it's really going both ways.
Right.
And so I want to give you the floor just to talk about that a little bit, and how you guys have been paying attention to all of this proliferation of channels that are now out there.
And yeah, to start off with, we talked about listening, which is very important. And when I say listen, it's not just, like I said, just your CSAT, just your calls. And in today's world, the amount of channels the customer have is mind-boggling, right?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Earlier you had a call, and then a chat came in, and pretty much an email was always there. These were the three primary channels. But now social media has become a huge channel. This current generation, they look at product reviews not on, they're not going to go Google it. They go to social media. They just do the hash. WhatsApp is a big, another channel where a lot of service happens on WhatsApp. People are on WhatsApp most of the time. You look at, again, self-help web pages, right? For example, in DBS, we are also attempting to do something like that. Not everybody is going to read a long text or a SMS. We believe, and goes back to the point, you have to understand your customer. Some customers might enjoy looking at a video. They might find it far more interesting than reading a 2-3 paragraphs of what to do. And that is where you got to use your channels. You got to listen to your channels. You got to expand your channels so that you can reach out to almost every customer in the way that he likes to be serviced. If I send an email to some customers, I know they're not even going to look at it, right? Email is, likewise, there are some customers an SMS might work. For some customers, an SMS in English might not work. A local language might be far more impactful because they're not probably comfortable. There are so many the layers within the service channels now. It is just
complex.
Exploding. It's exploding. It's complex, and it comes back to the point saying you're not a contact center. You're a knowledge center, right? And what you hold actually is the knowledge of what the customer wants. And that is where, if you position yourself as a knowledge center and you kind of use all these channels as an arm of you. For example, if you look into my current call center, I don't just manage the inbound calls, chats, and emails. We also do chatbot learning, right? Because I manage the chatbot. I also manage the self-help web page where we have a lot of information where customers can pick up. Because I know what the customer wants, and I constantly know what's changing. I'm the one who has the first knowledge if something goes wrong. And so I've expanded the team to say that I'm going to manage all the knowledge related stuff for my product. And that is something that you have to position yourself again. It's a mindset change. Do not say, I will take the FAQs that business will give me, or someone is going to feed it to me. More often than not, I'm the one who's sending them. I want all these answers to be updated. And you got to change your mindset there.
Yeah. Okay. Let me try to synthesize that in a way that makes sense to me to see if I'm getting you. This shift from contact center to knowledge center. Part of that is around how and where, more like where we listen. And so if you may not have set up social media as a customer service channel, but people are out there, they're expressing things. And you don't necessarily, you might not have the systems where it's all tied in and going into Zendesk and automatically, but to set up the capacity that, hey, we own this knowledge and we're going to go find it where it is. And one of those places is social media. The other one that you brought up, I thought, I didn't even think of it, but was the Play Store or the App Store, where people are giving reviews of your service or your app, but they're saying things that, about your product. And, I don't know any product managers that I've worked with that went out and looked at Play Store comments.
The Play Store is a big one.
Yeah.
Product managers, I think, if they don't know about it, I think they're missing a big, because Play Store will give you very clear feedback on your product.
Mhm.
In DBS, for example, we've done that when we launched. Of course, we were new and initially we struggled, and we had our scores were not so great. We did a concentrated effort on Play Store, and till date, it remains as one channel where we know something is wrong in the product. And we're a very dynamic product. We do so many releases in a year, close to 20, 25 releases also sometimes, right?
Mhm.
And so it's because of the way, the speed of things, sometimes we miss out some of the errors, but you can see that in Play Store very clearly. And in my social media, close to 40% of the volume we focus on Play Store comments. We look at everything. We go back to the customer. We close loop. That has given us rich dividends from a product experience.
Yeah. And tell me, I'm probably guessing you haven't automated that. So this is really like humans going and looking at the Play Store comments and going through them, right?
Yes, it comes into our CRM, and then we classify them. And, we if there's some further follow-up, we kind of give them a web link where they can drop in the information. And then we follow through till closure, till his issue is resolved.
So the message for the audience here is get creative. Don't just sit with the status quo. Like, yeah, we get emails and we've offered phone and email, and that's what we take. It's, hey, get creative and go out and find other sources, not necessarily whether or not you're generating a ticket is not it, but it's just like you're learning from that and you're bringing that in and you're feeding that back where it needs to go, whether it's changing FAQs or a product interface or just something in general about the customer journey. Get creative about all the places that you look. This is really, right, Raj, that's what a knowledge center is. It's not just, we're not taking contacts, right. We're gathering knowledge, we're bringing it in, we are synthesizing it, and then we are disseminating it within the organization so that we get better.
100%. Okay. You need to also, customers are not going to take too much effort, right? They probably, one out of, let's assume 10 customers have a problem. A couple of them will comment in Play Store. You go tell them, can you reach out to me? Probably nobody's going to even respond, right? So what we did, I'll just give you an example. We told people to email us, whatever the issue was, because Play Store doesn't give you the customer details, except the name. Sometimes the name is not easy in India, country like India, to figure out which customer is talking about that. Yeah. We used to give email IDs. Very few people used to email us. Then what we did is we gave a web link, which made it very easy. As soon as you look at it, there's a link, you click on it, you'll be able to, add details. You have to seek the information. If you want to resolve the issue, you got to seek the information. And like I said, it could be, incoming work for us, but it can avoid so much more inbound calls later because you're able to resolve it before more customers get affected. And hence what you said, the proactive and predictive service model here. Yeah, it all fits together. Okay, want to keep us going? And to do that, I am going to share one more slide, a very clever one that you sent me. Yeah. All right. So I'll give everybody a chance to chuckle over that. But, you talked a little bit about your own journey around bots. So actually, we're now talking a little bit about automation and AI bots and just automation in general. But you talked to me a little bit about your own arc of experience with AI automation. And at first you were skeptical. And I was going to just give you the floor to talk a little bit about some of your skepticism. Yeah. So 5 years back, when we launched Digibank in India, we were one of the few to launch with a chatbot. And I was very skeptical. I thought it was a glorified VLOOKUP, Excel VLOOKUP. It's just going to give FAQs. It's not, what's the bot in it? There is no rope. I was not very sure it would succeed. But over the last couple of years, I've not only, realized I was completely wrong. I've also realized it's become the mainstay for us right now. in DBS.
Mhm.
We use bots for a whole lot of things, and 80% of my volumes is handled, by the bots at the moment.
Mhm.
The important thing people should realize is you got to learn to use the bot effectively, what it can do and what it cannot do. And I think that is the critical difference, which I didn't initially understand, but over time I then realized the importance.
Do you want to just be more specific? Like what did you learn about what it can and cannot do?
uh, in the sense, whenever there's a basic inquiry, right, and that's how we started, uh, the bot can definitely give you an answer, right?
Mhm.
And it can take care of your basic queries where you don't need to make your CSOs probably answer those kind of queries, right? But also, it's also important that you realize that when it cannot answer, you got to make sure it can hand it over to a live agent.
Yeah,
That
it's got to be
that is a
smooth. Yeah.
that is a piece we struggle, to be honest, and we still struggle a bit. We're working on something, but the handover of what the bot can do and what the bot cannot do is a very important aspect of managing a chatbot.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to quickly make sure that the customer doesn't get caught in a dead end or a loop or
Correct.
anything like that. So
Correct.
the AI automation technology's got to really quickly diagnose, I can't handle this, and it sort of has to be real with itself. It says,
Correct.
can't do this. Here's an agent really quickly. Yeah, agreed.
And
Yeah.
it all, yeah, sorry, you were saying something.
Well, I would just say what I think the mindset that we have here at Netomi is, it's okay if you can't handle, if the bot can't handle it. At a bigger picture, what's happening is the ones that it can handle obviously are taking the load off the agents. So the agents can have some space to bring their human touch to the ones that really need it. And so the ones that get handed off, there's nothing wrong with that, because they get a very present and focused human who has the time and space to really give them the attention they deserve, rather than just, kind of like, I gotta hit my throughput metrics and get my queue down, but they have the space because the AI has offloaded them. That's how we talk to our customers or prospects about it.
And that's very powerful for a contact center, Gregory. I mean, you look at any call center agent over the years, they find monotony, repetitive work very monotonous, right? And nobody likes it, right? Answering the same question. When you eliminate some of your basic queries using your chatbot, what comes to them is quite challenging. Almost every second or third call is very different, where they have to do something more, because only failures come through, or problematic calls, customer breaks journeys, those kind of call comes in.
Yeah.
So it makes their job easy. We are able to scale up. The customer is able to get the response whenever he wants. He doesn't have to wait through IVRS. It's just a quick chat. And you shouldn't stop at that. And that is where I think we've also done a fair amount of work. We continue to add stuff in our bot. We've tried to make it easy. People don't like to type, for example. We've added a menu. So you've got to keep innovating in the bot. Last year, during the pandemic, just to give you an example, we moved a huge part of our volume, which is about transactions, right? As a bank, customers do a lot of financial transactions, and sometimes you have a failure. The scale at which we do transactions is very high, and our failure is 0.1%, but still it's a substantial amount of our volume. We moved that entire dispute process using our chatbot. And what that helped is, it actually helped us reduce close to 15 to 20% of my manpower from calls. And of course, I moved them from calls into guided conversations and a lot more intelligent work. It's not that we reduce, but it's just that it opens up our possibility to give better service.
Yeah.
Right. And that is what I meant by saying, the invasion of the bots. When I say invasion of the bots are coming, but I don't think we should fear it. We should understand the bot. We should build it. I've seen Netomi's bot, AI as well. I mean, it's you got to leverage it to your advantage. At the same time, know what the bot cannot do, right? And hand it over to the agent. That is the critical difference.
Yeah. Okay. Let me now check in with the audience here. I'm going to launch a poll, audience. And what is the top point of reluctance? I'm going to launch this poll. So go ahead, and I'm going to give you a minute to answer. Go ahead. Okay. So this is interesting. What's coming in is that probably 50% of the responses are still coming in. So I'll just keep it open for a minute. But 50% of the responses would degrade our customer experience. And that is, I totally understand that response. And what we've heard from people that are very new to this technology is, can it give good responses? Like, will it actually understand people? And I think that comes out of a lot of the last generation chatbots. I mean, there are a lot of chatbots out there that are really, they're based on keywords. And so they look into the answer and say keywords, but if the question has the word Apple in it, it's very contextual. Is it Apple the company? Is it Apple the stock? Is it Apple the fruit? And so the most people's experience with chatbots and AI bots have been about that last generation keyword technology. And Netomi is squarely way past that in terms of the cutting edge and using really vector-based methods that are much more advanced and really state of the art to really understand human language. And it's much, much more complex than just keywords. And so that's usually what we do with our customers and the prospects is once we give them the demo and show them how we can understand, they realize, oh, this is not going to degrade the customer experience. Because also, it's the point that you brought up, Raj, was in those cases where it might not have been trained already on a certain type of question or phrasing, quickly get to an agent. So the customer experience, there's always that backstop for the customer experience is that if you can't, strong human understanding of human language, and if it can't, quickly write to an agent. So it's very seamless. But you guys have been so successful. So it hasn't degraded your customer experience. I think you would say that it's absolutely enhanced your customer experience, right?
Absolutely. I mean, imagine 80% of my volume. If not for that, I would have had to make my team 5 times larger, right?
Right.
And not only that, during the nights, and it gives relevant, for example, a video, right? If you call me, I cannot share a video, but right now in the chatbot, I have access to give you a web link. If the instruction is huge, I can give you a video link tomorrow. If just instructing you over a chat is not good enough, the advantage of a chatbot is I can also tailor make that response basis the kind of customer type that you are, and that I don't think a call can do. A live chat cannot do that also very effectively. It is still much more lengthier. But I think from what it was earlier, like you said, when we started, it was giving basic answers to, as long as you train your bot and you take new age bots like Netomi and others, it really will not degrade your service. It will help you scale up so much better. And the agents who service the remaining portion of the calls, they will also get much more better serviced, and they'll get much better experience, that your overall customer experience will get elevated.
Yeah.
I've seen that
I agree
happen
with that.
for sure.
I agree with that. Okay. Let's take a few of the Q&A questions. So we've got one that says, hey, we really think that WhatsApp is convenient for the customer. I like that, but I'm reading the ticket. What do we do about measuring time taken to resolve the issue if the query is not via ticket? Okay, so I'll take this one. The answer to this is really so Netomi is omni-channel. So we're able to take in queries from a variety of different sources, including WhatsApp, and then we will filter, or maybe funnel is a better word, funnel that into your agent desk. So if you're using, say, Zendesk, we can be set up so that we'll receive and automate inquiries over WhatsApp. So we can automate that whole conversation. And when it's necessary, we can hand off to a live agent, but a ticket gets created for this. So it's really not a concern. Even if you're not using Netomi, I think there's capabilities in Zendesk for omnichannel as well. They're not quite as robust as the ones we have for automating all channels, but we do handle that. I'll take another question. Ravindra. How does a knowledge strategy play a role in having no customer service to provide customer service? And I think that we covered that, where Raj was talking about, it's not just the normal established channels, but taking in information, having a mindset that we're going to access and tap multiple sources of information, aggregate the learnings from that, and operationalize the learnings from that by connecting with other teams that would need to partner and collaborate in order to address that. Raj, is there anything to add to that, or would you?
I mean, I can give an example if it helps people. So I was talking about the transaction dispute, which is a huge part of our volume. So for 2.5 years, we were working to see this is 30% of my volume, 1/3 of my volume. How do I make this a better process? So we kept listening to what are the calls coming in, and we started doing experiments. And then, of course, the investment was very high. It took a couple of years for us to find the time and the kind of ROI to invest in it.
Mhm.
But once we were listening, we understood this is the pain point. We bought it into the bot. Like I said, helped us reduce, by 50% of that volume just went away. The other 50%, what we actually also did is we captured it such that the RPA kind of ran that in the backend. There was no intervention. We saved literally 2 days of time for the customer for a resolution, 1 to 2 days minimum, if not more. Uh, it really again goes back. Use your knowledge, listen. You've got to make sure you listen, make sure you measure the right things, and then go back to your product so that you build your journey such that you're able to make it proactive, predictive, and this is completely end-to-end in the app. So if you had a dispute, you can raise it in the app through the chatbot. You want to check the status, you can go back to the chatbot and check the status. You literally didn't have to call anybody, right? And earlier we used to call up customers and people like, everybody's busy, and you call up, they say, I'm in a meeting, call me back. It was a very painful experience. And now it is, in fact, in DBS, we talk about live more, talk less, which is, DBS. I mean, that's the way you have to look at it. Why should I call up someone, intrude in his life? Why should he call me, intrude in my life? I mean,
Yeah.
we are disturbing his life.
Yeah.
And I think
Okay.
chatbot is very key in doing that.
Yeah, great example. Okay, I want to be mindful of our time because we're going to have to land this plane. To the audience, please, any questions, please submit them right now. I've got one for you. This is for you, Raj. Did your team grow with the increase in volumes despite having a bot? I think you addressed that, but I'll just throw the question to you.
As I told you, in the last 5 years, we've managed to keep our headcount absolutely flat.
Mhm.
In fact, our inbound calls and chat volume has decreased by 20% from what it was during launch. This is despite adding 5 extra products, growing about 6 times in customer base, 15 times in transactions. What we used that extra headcount was to, for example, take over the chatbot learning. We have to train the chatbot. We created that team. We created data science teams. We've created social media desk. We were doing 5 days, peak time. So we expanded. So we use this effort that we save into further improving the service. And so to your answer, we didn't. And I think that was the beauty of the entire, the proposition that we had. Despite everything going up, we managed to service the customer digitally and help the economic model also of the product.
Yeah. Okay. This is actually a good time, talking about bots. I will just throw this out. If there's anybody there that would like a demo, I've just launched this poll. If you'd like a demo of the Netomi platform, just go ahead and say yes or no here. And I'll just give that a moment for those to come in. And somebody will reach out to you and make it very seamless. And we can give you a quick demo in a very short amount of time. So you can see the power of the platform and really the power of, like what Raj is talking about, the power of bots and how they can really, in a skyrocketing business like DBS, how they can really help you keep both headcount flat and concentrate that headcount where it's mostly needed, not on the, rote stuff. Okay. End that poll. And okay, I'm just going to do one final check around Q&A. And okay, I think that is, let's let that be enough for today, Raj. I think we always try to end about 10 minutes before the top of the hour. I want to say thank you. This was great. I really enjoyed our conversation and our back and forth on this topic. It's one you're passionate about. I know you've been doing it for a long time. And really glad to have you on. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Gregory and Mani, for having me here. And I don't think there's rocket science to what we do. I think all we do is basic stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, thanks to a company like DBS, I think, who does a lot of investments, and, a lot of companies like Netomi who provide these great tools to us to kind of manage these experiences and take it to the next level. Thanks to all of you, I think this customer experience is getting better as we speak. But there's still a lot of work to be done, to be honest. But we will get there. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Raj. Take care.